The wind howled like a hungry wolf, a sound I knew all too well, living this deep in the Rockies. But tonight, it was different. It wasn't just the wind, there was a new note in its song, a desperate, piercing cry that cut right through the blizzard's roar. I pulled my parka tighter, grabbing my heavy-duty flashlight. Whatever was out there, it wasn't going to last long in this storm. Stepping outside was like walking into a wall of ice. The snow was coming down so thick I could barely see the hand in front of my face. The cry came again, closer this time, and laced with a pain that made my heart ache. I followed the sound, pushing through snowdrifts that were already waist-deep. It led me towards the old grove of pine trees at the edge of my property, their dark shapes barely visible against the white chaos. And that's when I saw it. Curled into a tiny, shivering ball at the base of a massive pine was a creature I couldn't comprehend. It was small, maybe the size of a human toddler, and covered in thick, white fur, now matted with snow. Its face was surprisingly human-like, with large, dark eyes, wide with fear and cold. The cries I'd heard were coming from its small, trembling mouth. It was a baby. A baby Sasquatch. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to get back inside and bolt the door. The legends around here weren't just campfire stories. They were cautionary tales. But looking at this little thing, so helpless and alone, I couldn't. It was just a child, freezing to death. I knelt, moving slowly so as not to scare it further. I took off my thick outer gloves, my fingers instantly numb, and reached out. The baby flinched, but it didn't have the energy to move away. Its skin was ice cold. "Hey there, little fella," I whispered, my voice lost in the wind. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." Gently, I scooped it up. It weighed almost nothing. I unzipped my parka and tucked it inside, against the warmth of my chest. The shivering lessened almost immediately, and the cries softened into whimpers. As I held it, I felt a strange connection, a profound sense of responsibility for this impossible creature. I turned back towards the cabin, each step a battle against the storm, a tiny life depending on me. Back inside, the warmth of the fireplace hit us. I carefully laid the little one on a pile of soft blankets near the hearth. Its eyes, the color of dark honey, followed my every move. I warmed some milk on the stove. I didn't know what it ate, but it seemed like the right thing to do. I dipped my finger in the warm milk and offered it. Hesitantly, the baby licked it, then began to suckle eagerly. A small, rumbling purr starred deep in its chest. For the next few hours, I was a makeshift father to a baby Bigfoot. I dried its fur with a soft towel, which turned out to be a brilliant, snowy white. It watched me with an intelligence that was both fascinating and unsettling. It never made another sound, just watched, its large eyes seeming to hold ancient secrets. The purring continued, a constant, comforting vibration. The storm outside raged on, but inside my small cabin, a strange and wonderful peace had settled. I found myself talking to it, telling it about my life, the quiet solitude, the mountains I called home. It listened, its head tilted, as if it understood every word. As dawn approached, the blizzard began to subside. The wind quieted, and a pale, gray light filtered through the windows. The little creature was sleeping soundly, its breathing deep and even. I looked out the window at the transformed world, a pristine landscape of white, and then I saw them. Footprints. They were enormous, easily twice the size of my own boot prints, and they were fresh. They led from the deep woods directly to my cabin. My blood ran cold. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, who they belonged to. The mother. She had been searching for her child all night. The fear I'd suppressed earlier came rushing back, a tidal wave of adrenaline. What would she do when she found her baby here, with me, a human? The stories always ended one way. I looked at the sleeping baby, then back at the tracks. I couldn't keep it. This wasn't my world, and it wasn't my child. As much as a part of me wanted to protect it forever, it belonged with its own kind, with its mother. With a heavy heart, I gently wrapped the baby back in the warm blankets. It stirred, looking up at me with those trusting eyes. "It's time to go home, little guy," I whispered. Holding it close one last time, I opened the door. The air was frigid but still. I followed the tracks in reverse, heading back towards the pine grove where I'd found him. Every step felt like a drumbeat counting down to a confrontation I couldn't win. The massive footprints stopped at the edge of the trees, and I knew she was in there, watching me. I placed the bundled baby at the base of the same giant pine tree. I took a few steps back, my heart pounding in my chest. I raised my empty hands to show I meant no harm. I brought him back, I called out, my voice shaking slightly. He was cold. I just kept him warm. For a long moment, there was only silence. The forest held its breath. Then, from the shadows between the trees, a figure emerged. It was breathtaking. She had to be at least 8 feet tall, covered in the same thick, white fur as her baby. A true creature of the snow. Her sheer size was intimidating, but it was her face that held me captive. It was filled with a mix of suspicion, fear, and a raw, desperate love that any parent would recognize. Our eyes met. She took a slow, deliberate step forward, then another. I stood my ground, my body rigid with fear, but my heart filled with a strange empathy. She wasn't a monster. She was a mother who had lost her child. She stopped a few feet from the baby, her gaze shifting from me to the bundle on the ground. The little one whimpered, and the sound broke the tension. With a movement that was surprisingly graceful for her size, she knelt down. She gently unwrapped the blankets, her enormous hands incredibly tender. She nuzzled her baby, making a low, guttural sound of pure relief. The baby cooed and reached up to touch her face. It was a moment of reunion so powerful and private that I felt like an intruder. The mother then did something I will never forget. She looked back at me. The suspicion in her eyes was gone, replaced by something I can only describe as gratitude. She gave a slow, deliberate nod. It wasn't just an acknowledgement, it was a thank you. A communication that transcended species. A moment of understanding between two beings in the vast, wild silence. Then, as quietly as she appeared, she scooped up her child, held it close to her chest, and vanished back into the depths of the forest. I was left alone, standing in the snow, the silence of the woods ringing in my ears. I walked back to my cabin, the world feeling both larger and smaller than it had before. Life up here was never the same after that day. I still look for them sometimes, in the quiet moments after a fresh snowfall. I never saw them again, but I know they're out there. And in the wildest, most remote corners of this world, there's still magic, and a mother's love is the most powerful force of all. Thanks for watching.